Okay, continuing the interview with Doris Sullivan on her early years in Arkansas. And let's pick it up, Mom, after the last video kind of ended sadly with your dad's death and everything. So pick it up from there. Early childhood.
After the funeral, it was, we all got back home, which was nice because we had been in different homes through this week before, and we were all together again at home. And my oldest sister was a school teacher, and she had met a friend of hers that lived in the Ozark area that we lived, and was engaged to him, and he was working in the oil fields in Oklahoma. And so, unbeknownst to me, anyway, she wrote and told him that she couldn't marry because our dad had passed away and she needed to support the family.
This was Aunt Thelma. Okay.
And Mother wouldn't let her do that, give up her life for the family. Mother had great faith in her healer. And she had to have had to go through all of this that she has gone through. And so she was going to carry out Dad's wishes of leaving Arkansas and going to either Kansas or Nebraska. And she chose Kansas because of her brother and sister that lived there. So the following March of 1930, after the crash of the
1929, the big one,
Wall Street, we moved to Kansas, and there was 8 of us children, 9 of us children, all went with Mother, and my oldest sister got married the night before in our living room, and my her boyfriend,
husband,
his dad was a preacher.
Oh,
and he came and had the marriage rites in the parlor of their house the night before. I remember that because Mother let me put on one of my little party dresses to sit in, and if I'd been real quiet, so I got to go sit in with her getting married. The next morning we loaded up my aunt, my mother's sister's husband, took a train to Fayetteville, which was 26 miles southeast of us, or northwest of us. And so he took a train up with a fellow that was living with him.
This is Uncle Basil?
This was Uncle Bernie.
Uncle Bernie. Okay.
Basil is Thelma's husband.
I know. Who's Uncle Bernie?
Aunt Belle's.
Right, and they came by train to get you?
He did, yeah, they did.
Okay.
And they brought the moving truck with them.
Oh, okay.
And they loaded everything that we were going to take with us in the van. And then they had, they had a car. They drove their car because they had a car, and we children, some of us rode in the van on top of the furniture. It was an open furniture.
Kind of like Grapes of Wrath.
This is back in 1930.
Yeah.
And then Mother and the older siblings rode in the car, and the rest of us rode in the van. So we took off. We mean, it was all loaded. It took us probably a day or two. I don't know. I was too young to remember. But I remember the first stop that we made after we left was to go by the school. And all the school, closed the school and just visited with us for an hour or so. And the people in Delaney come to see us before we left. And then we drove to Fayetteville. And that was our stopping place. We all stayed at the hotel there in Fayetteville.
I have a question, Mother. When you stopped at the school, was that the school that Aunt Thelma taught at?
No. It's a school she graduated from.
Okay.
And it was the only school that I knew. And so I don't remember much in the hotel, but it was like a mansion to me. Those long halls and all that. I don't remember how Mother bedded us all down or anything. But after we left there, I don't remember much of it. It took us 3 or 4 days just to go that distance. And I got sick, riding sickness. And they had to put me in the car. And so I ran in the car the rest of the way. But we stopped and Mother had meats and everything that we had in our smokehouse, and bread and all that, so that we didn't have to stop at any restaurants on that whole trip. She had food for all of us, and stopped at parks along the highways. And the first airplane that I saw was as we was entering Hutchinson. We went right past the airport. And that was the first time I'd seen an airplane. And just a little cubby thing. It wasn't very big, but I thought it was giant. And we stayed with Aunt Belle until we found a place that we could, big enough that we could all live in, you know.
Did you have any idea in your mind of where Hutchinson was, or Kansas, and all that? So you were just...
And I had never seen any other human other than white till we moved to Hutchinson. And then I found the little brown children and the black children, and I had no idea, you know, where did they come from? so it was
strange.
Yeah, it was quite an awakening.
Well, it's a much larger town than what you were used to, too. You were kind of like in a city all of a sudden, weren't you, instead of a country?
And see, the streets all going east and west and north and south, and no hills, nothing, just flat country, not even a mountain anywhere. It was just prairie. And I had never been out of the mountains before. And I was very homesick when we moved to Kansas. I don't remember any of my siblings crying, but I know I cried a lot because I wanted to go home. I knew that my sister still stayed in Arkansas with her husband, and I could stay with her because she was like a second mother anyway to me. So that was our trip to Hutchinson, and it was a confusing time for a child.
Did you? What did you do when you first started exploring Hutchinson? I mean, were there other things? There were taller buildings. Was a Wiley building there at the time, or?
Oh yeah.
Okay. So you had the downtown area with the large buildings and everything. How did that strike you?
Well, we just I don't remember having any particular, except that it was just different, you know. And my brother would try to explain to me because he had been up there in the summertime when he wasn't in school, he'd gotten a job working on the High Line between Nebraska and Kansas. And he tried to explain to me about the streets, you know, that you could just go this way and then just go this way, and they had streets and corners everywhere, you know. And in my mind, I couldn't place it. I just couldn't see it. And many times I got lost because I didn't know.
That's
what
probably
direction.
why you don't know your directions here. You know right and left, but north and south doesn't mean anything to you. Probably from all the living in the mountains.
Yeah.
So when did you start school?
We started, our school grades got lost in the move. So, Mother, we moved in March. Just
Your
a year
records
later.
and everything, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And both of my aunts told Mother, it seems like I don't know why they would tell them, but they said not to start the children in school this late in the season, and we just as well wait until fall.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
And you would think that. You only had a month left or
and
something.
since she didn't have the grade cards for all of us with their grades, we all had to repeat our grades.
Really? Just for,
So we were smart all the way through school because we were behind where we should have been, you know.
You were older than the other kids, yeah.
But through the program that they had back then, which was very minimal, they did have a food line where people in Hutchinson could go and get. They had clothing and they had food, and then I had a lot of siblings pass things down to me, and us younger ones. My mother was such a good seamstress, and she could make anything out of a sow's ear. She knew how to keep us clothed, you know, with our clothes. And if she found something in the clothesline and brought it home, she would remodel it to fit us, you know, so that we'd have clothes. But it wasn't just us; it was everybody back then.
hard times.
In the hard times, I mean, everybody was using this food line and help, which was kind of like the Salvation Army is today,
Right.
that they didn't have back then. And
Because the company that your dad worked for and everything, did they go out of business or whatever? They never paid any kind of settlement or anything for that workers.
no,
For the
they paid a salary.
injury or death.
They paid a salary, but they had no insurance.
Yeah. So nothing there. So here's a widow with how many children? There were 9 of you?
10 when Daddy was killed.
Yeah, and a widow and everything. And so how did you support yourself? I mean, the older kids worked and helped?
When we got settled in Kansas, the older ones went to work. And the reason that, I guess maybe it was the state, because of the number of children that they had at home, siblings at home, they got jobs before a lot of other people got the jobs. So it was rationed out that way. And I know my second, next to the oldest sister, the one at home, she got a job at the telephone office.
And Helen.
And my oldest brother, Doyle, got a job in the building, the courthouse there in Hutchinson. And Uncle Irvin got a job at Swift Meat Company, which were good jobs.
Yeah.
And not paying very much because he got
Not paid much, yeah.
no. But then the first one to leave the family was Uncle Irvin. He left a year after we moved to Kansas and went to California, where he could get a job and support himself. And that would take one more mouth out of the
one less
to feed. And then Helen got married, and so that cut her salary out. So it left Uncle Doane to support the rest of us.
And that happened in the first year? All that happened in the first year or after the first year?
No.
Uncle Urban left the first year. And then, yes, me and Helen got married the first year. So that was, both of those were in the first year. And then, we had aunts and uncles. They had large families too. Like one of them had 7, and the other one had 6 children, and boys and girls. And so, with clothes passed me down and all, we were able to do that. And Mother was able to always have food on the table, and we'd have a small garden where we lived.
And she wasn't, your mom was a teacher, but she wasn't really able to work. Why was that?
Because the state said that at that time they weren't hiring women teachers. But her being a widow, she would have been able to had she not had so many children. But she had too many children at home. She had to farm us out for her to renew her teaching certificate.
Right.
Which it doesn't seem right that it could be that way, but that's the way it was, and she wouldn't do that. She wouldn't. And like I said, her faith carried her through, and we never felt neglected. We never felt that we were any different than anybody else.
No, I just thought that was really important, because a lot of people don't realize some of the rules around employment and everything in the Depression. So yeah.
And we always had lots of friends. A lot of friends. They loved to come to our house. Mother was a joyful person to be around. She was a loving mother. And we just survived with our own love for each other and support. And we never felt degraded or anything. We always had pride in ourselves. I guess that comes from the Southern pride, they call it. But that was our life through those hard years. When in 1933 we lost another sibling, Bernice. It was between me and Beatrice. And she was going to a Queen Esther meeting at the church. And Beatrice, she had friends, Bernice had friends that were stopping by to pick her up. So she grabbed a roll winning that Mother was going to pick some hot dogs for dinner. And at that time they didn't have preservations in meats. And she got a
some kind of bacterial thing or something.
Bonic.
Probably botulism.
Yeah, botulism, which was fatal at that time.
Yeah.
And so coming home from the church meeting, she had an attack. That botulism hit her heart. And so she passed away before the doctor could get to the house to see her.
She had a bad heart too, didn't she? So she was kind of frail.
Yeah, she was.
She was undersized.
And so that was the first sad thing that really struck me hard, because we were like twins. I went everywhere with her, and we did fun things together. And it was just like losing part of me.
Yeah, that's
when
a
I
year.
lost her.
33, you would have been 13 going on 14 or something like that. 33?
No, she
No,
was
12?
11.
Okay.
I was 10.
10.